Documentary contains nudity and coarse language. Viewer discretion is advised. And now, on the lens, the Prince of Pot.
They say I'm responsible for 1.1 million pounds. I hope it's true.
Marc Emery, founder of the BC Marijuana Party, publisher of Cannabis Culture Magazine, and lifelong activist, is now, according to the DEA, one of the most wanted men in the drug world.
What we started seeing was these indoor grow operations that are popping up all over the United States, traced right back to Marc Emery.
Marc Emery faces extradition to the United States and possible life in prison.
Canadian law enforcement officials and the Canadian public didn't even deign to think important enough to investigate.
Prince of Pot, the U.S. versus Marc Emery, a world television premiere.
Marc Emery intentionally moved illegal drugs into the United States, knowingly did that. He violated the laws of the United States government, and he was arrested for that.
There is sort of that impending sensibility, like not so much impending doom, but getting closer to a certain finality that I'm going to perhaps get sent to the United States, 98% likely, as my lawyer says, so makes your stomach knot up a bit.
We're talking about the #1 purveyor of marijuana seeds into the United States. Marc Emery is facing 10 years to life in prison. That would be without parole. In the United States system, under the federal system, there is no parole.
Finally, now I've got the big David and Goliath battle I've always been seeking. And I must have been goading them subconsciously all along to do this. Go ahead, I dare you.
Very good.
I met him online. I wanted to learn about cannabis and activism, and he intrigued me. He was just very sweet and kind and intelligent, and he taught me a lot. What I wanted is an older man to devote myself to, someone I could love and believe in. Kind of like a Jackie O thing, I guess. I just wanted to be somebody's perfect wife and help them do whatever their mission is in their life. Quick one hit and then we gotta go. I was actually anti-drugs. I thought pot was bad and killed you. And when I finally smoked pot for the first time, it's really the revelation that people need, because you realize that there's one lie, and it's a big lie, and it's that pot is bad. You know, that's a simple thing to say. There's a lot more to it. But you start questioning everything.
Out of prison on $50,000 bail, Emery has been ordered to appear in the BC Supreme Court today. He hasn't been charged by Canadian authorities, but before any Canadian citizen can be extradited, a Canadian judge must review the evidence against them and decide whether, in this case, Emery and friends will be surrendered to U.S. authorities across the border.
Thank you.
I wonder if the others are here.
Emery is joined by his two longtime friends, Michelle and Greg, who are also now his co-defendants, as they dig in for what will likely be a long string of court appearances as the extradition process unfolds.
We got a new prosecutor now. Rose is off the case.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I think her workload has just shifted.
Oh.
So.
Oh, no, but we have handsome, charming lawyers that can sweep her off her feet. Arr! It's a lot more difficult with a mean old man there.
What do you think is wrong? No, he said.
Emery puts on a brave face, but he knows the odds are stacked against him. His own lawyer says the chances of flat-out beating an extradition request are slim to none.
It's a difficult case. Extradition cases since the 1999 Extradition Act are very tough to defend.
Well, miss, let's go into our fate.
This place sucks.
The Minister of Justice has the ultimate decision. I am unaware of a single case in Canadian history where the Minister of Justice has declined to surrender somebody where a committal order has been made. Politically, they just don't do it.
It is bleak. Yeah, he's told me that repeatedly, that I'm more or less doomed.
It would be a tragedy to see these three people spend the rest of their lives in a jail in the United States for something that Canadian law enforcement officials and the Canadian public didn't even deign to think important enough to investigate, much less prosecute.
After getting to know Marc Emery, it seems that in a way his whole life has led up to this fight. In fact, I think he's been eagerly awaiting it for decades. Marc Emery grew up in London, Ontario. He was only 17 years old when he quit high school to buy a local bookstore, which soon became his pulpit.
It was just an extension of his overbearing personality. Almost immediately it started becoming a place where political debate would take place. Marc being the kind of loudmouth guy he is, it just spontaneously sort of erupted around him.
Emery immediately became a thorn in the side of the London, Ontario political establishment. He refused to close his bookstore on Sundays. He was fined, but refused to pay, and instead went to jail.
No small part of that is propelled by an ego that's got to be responsible for 40% of his body weight.
Emery railed against the censorship of magazines, including pot magazines, which were banned in Canada at the time.
The Canadian government banned all the books about pot, and as a bookseller, I was pretty shocked to discover this.
We have been made enemies of the very people we pay taxes to keep afloat. And it's time we turned around and told them, fuck you.
Emery openly began selling the banned materials.
Marc was desperate to be charged so we could raise a constitutional challenge. He actually sold the books right outside the police station, the London police station, and sold them out there, thinking they've got to bust me now, I'm on their property, and they didn't touch them.
Frustrated, Emery cranked it up a notch. He marched into the London police station and tried to file charges against himself. The police still wouldn't bite.
You want to leave a living legacy, get out and break those goddamn laws, because if you don't do it, they ain't going anywhere.
After 18 years of trying to change antiquated laws, Emery was getting fed up and hung up his activism hat for a while.
Well, adios.
Years later, he relocated to Vancouver with a humble goal: to start a hemp and marijuana revolution. Emery chose Vancouver because he'd read that it had the highest concentration of marijuana growers in North America. He'd decided to become their prince. For years now, Emery's shop on Hastings Street has been a shrine for the cannabis culture and a headquarters for the legalization movement.
Find the pollinator? Oh, that's neat. We used to call it like a washing machine for your weed.
It's a bookstore, a bong shop, and a smoking lounge. A place where smoking pot is not only allowed, it's encouraged. It's also the head office of Emery's low-budget media empire. His web TV channel, Pot TV.
Folks, you're watching Pot TV. I'm Jack Layton, leader of the New Democratic Party of Canada.
And his magazine, Cannabis Culture.
Hey, Cannabis Culture Magazine, Marc speaking.
Cannabis Culture was the country's first legal glossy magazine devoted to marijuana. Today, Emery is the publisher and editor, his bride Jody, his co-editor.
Hold on a sec. Hey, Jody, that Humboldt story's got to be done right now. He's all ready to lay it out.
All right, can he work on a different article for now?
What's that? Okay, talk to you later. I just want you to say, yes, I'll get to it, and I'll have it done in the next couple hours. You've had that for about 5 days.
Well, yeah, but a lot of other things have happened.
Maybe, but if you could get to that now.
The magazine's manifesto vowed to campaign to legalize pot, and Emery's catchphrase, "overgrow the government," became a battle cry of the movement.
Hey guys, make sure you check out the new issue of CC. It actually has his voter guide in it. Marc has broken it down state by state, district by district, who is the best person for representing the drug culture and the marijuana culture in the United States.
Emery's magazine appeared on newsstands throughout Canada and the U.S., and alongside the pot-positive political messages, it advertised Emery's other business, mail-order marijuana seeds. Selling marijuana seeds is technically illegal in Canada, but rarely enforced. The local police had other priorities, and at first turned a blind eye.
I mean, seeds were not something that you got all nudgy about.
Larry Campbell, the former mayor of Vancouver and a 12-year veteran of the RCMP drug squad, thought Emery wasn't worth the bother or expense.
If you charged somebody whether you had to grow them to find out whether it was sativa or whether it was hemp, from my point of view, it wasn't that big a deal.
Emery took full advantage of this attitude. By his account, the seed business generated gross sales of $15 million over an 11-year run.
I've always promised people, when you send me the money, you get the seeds, we pay our suppliers, and then whatever's left over, we use it to subvert the political system.
Emery certainly made no secret of it. He advertised, paid taxes, and courted media attention. Emery claims he gave away millions of dollars to support legalization efforts and kept only what he needed to live on.
The project worked perfectly. It still is right on target, accomplishing what it always had set out to do, which was make sure we had a lot of pot, thwart the DEA, thwart all the police systems around the world, have them running around, thousands of them chasing all this marijuana I was helping create, and ultimately to waste their efforts. So that sooner or later they would simply give up, stop, and change the laws. The whole reason I set this thing up was not so I could pocket the money. It was so we could advance a worldwide organization that was determined to end this prohibition. Worked great.
What worked great was that it attracted loads of publicity. It began when the Wall Street Journal published a front-page story about Emery. Less than a month later, the Vancouver police raided the store and arrested him.
Every time I was in major American media, I would get raided within days or weeks. When I was in Rolling Stone magazine, I got raided 2 weeks later. And after the CNN show, I got raided a month later. I could do anything I wanted in the Canadian media, nothing would happen.
He's not gonna hurt you! You should be so ashamed!
There were a series of charges within 6 months of the CNN show, all done by Vancouver local police, in my opinion, under the guidance and instructions of the Americans. They couldn't hurt him. The charges in Canada were too minor, and basically he pled guilty, paid a fine, and was back in business.
Emery's public profile only grew with each bust. He was charged and convicted in Canadian court, but only given small fines. So the Canadian police soon went back to ignoring his business activities.
So the Americans saw that they couldn't rely upon Canadian police to put Marc out of business. They weren't aggressive enough. They don't play hardball like the DEA plays. So I guess they decided at some point shortly thereafter they would target Marc and they would take care of Marc themselves because they do know how to put someone out of business and they also know how to destroy lives.
Each culture has to have its heroes who obviously were willing to give their lives up for that movement. And dying might be inevitable. If I go to a U.S. prison for life, I'm certainly going to die in prison. In any case, I never worry about it.
Okay, we'll bring it on. Okay, great. To be honest, I think there's a bit of fear in him that he doesn't let show. I think he wants to believe and prepare himself for the worst eventual outcome. People walking by going, what are they doing? It's a nut! All things I see going through the park. Oh my goodness. It's cannabis and oil. I heard.
1 ounce of THC, and we're going to see if it can penetrate the skin and kill all the cancerous cells or any precancerous cells.
Marc Emery is a Canadian, happily living in Vancouver. But the decision to investigate and charge him was made across the border. I was curious, why did Emery's marijuana seeds pose such a serious threat to America? So I headed to the Seattle office of the DEA and put the question to the man who headed the investigation.
What we started seeing was these indoor grow operations that are popping up all over the United States, traced right back to Marc Emery. Seeds may look to some as, oh, that's insignificant. Those seeds then go to an indoor grow operation, and then we see the negative consequences of people using that marijuana. Marijuana is a significant problem here in the United States. He did not care that his marijuana seeds resulted in the production of marijuana that would devastate families and communities in the United States.
That people are still sitting in prison for 20 years over marijuana seeds or something makes me want to freak out.
Doug Hyatt, an attorney based in Seattle, has defended hundreds of medical marijuana patients busted under U.S. laws and knows firsthand the DEA's hardline approach.
If Mr. Benson wants to talk about destroying families, then talk to me about my clients whose lives are destroyed because they're trying to use marijuana as medicine, and the government comes in and takes all of their belongings, takes their car, tries to forfeit it all, tries to prove them drug traffickers when they've got a doctor's recommendation and 10 plants. And I'm trying to fight them out of state court situations. The only thing I see ruining people's lives is the government's policies.
I personally am persuaded that marijuana is a health concern, that marijuana should be illegal, and the current approach is to criminalize that behavior.
According to the U.S. government, marijuana is everything from a common health risk to a gateway to drug addiction, impaired driving, irresponsible sex, and crime. These are claims that David Malmo Levine has heard before.
There are no marijuana drug tanks. There are no marijuana cancer wards. There's no real evidence of marijuana casualties and marijuana victims.
A veteran activist, he argued for legalization before the Supreme Court of Canada, insisting that cigarettes and alcohol do much more harm to society than marijuana.
Where are all Marc Emery's victims? Where are the bodies? Show me the bodies. I haven't seen any bodies. Really, if they're putting that guy away for life, you should be able to at least point to one guy with something worse than bronchitis. You can't. There are no marijuana victims. It's all a myth.
People are unjustly being put in prison and having their lives destroyed for choosing a substance that's, you know, somewhere between coffee and beer. As far as I'm concerned, this is not that strong of a substance. I've smoked 5 joints since you and I have been sitting here together, of the strongest pot in the world. I could keep going for hours. But I could not do that if I drank whiskey or beer or wine.
Greg smokes a lot more pot than the average person, but he does have a point. Government inquiries around the world have spent years of study and millions of dollars and have consistently come to similar conclusions. That the responsible use of marijuana does not pose a significant health risk, that alcohol and cigarettes are far more harmful overall, that criminalizing pot causes more harm than the drug itself, and that decriminalization is recommended. These reports, and there have been over 20, include analysis of medical studies which caution that anything you smoke can harm your lungs. But rather than cancer, bronchitis seems to be the most common risk. And recent studies have found that pot can make types of psychosis like schizophrenia worse for some people, but paradoxically can be used to treat others. For some, the medical benefits far outweigh the risks.
Hey, all you Pot TV fans, how about all our extradition fans? I'm Michelle Rainey, and welcome to Michelle's Rant.
I fought for 10 years to be legally allowed to possess and grow marijuana. And finally, I was able to acquire my medical marijuana exemption in Canada a year ago.
Michelle Rainey is one of 1,500 Canadians currently licensed to legally smoke cannabis and grow up to 50 plants for personal medical use under the Canadian government's Compassionate Access Program.
I have Crohn's disease, and I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease when I was 17 years old. The explanation of Crohn's is eat some glass. and then try and go to the bathroom. The pain is excruciating. Cannabis calms my intestinal tract, so the pain of my diarrhea and my nausea is not as severe as it would normally be.
She's been indicted for assisting Marc Emery in pushing these marijuana seeds to indoor grow operations in the United States.
I am pretty confident that she would not be smoking marijuana in a federal prison in the United States should that happen.
If I go to prison in the U.S., I will die. There's no ands, if, buts, or maybes. I will die.
Sticking to their mantra that pot causes drug addiction and has no medical use, the U.S. government continues to enforce some of the harshest drug laws in the world. But still, how can any person face life for selling marijuana seeds? Well, in the United States, federal sentences for pot are based on the amounts involved. One marijuana seed is considered equal to one plant. 100 plants equals a prison sentence of 5 to 40 years. 1,000 plants, 10 years to life, all without parole. By that logic, Marc Emery, who is accused by the DEA of sending over 2 million seeds to the U.S., qualifies for a life sentence 2,000 times over.
They kept challenging DEA, challenging the U.S. Department of Justice, challenging everything going on there. When you do that, it's inevitable that they're going to come after you. You don't put a stick in Superman's eye.
On the day Emery was arrested, a DEA press release declared that Emery was, in the U.S. government's opinion, one of the top 46 drug traffickers in the entire world, and the only one in Canada.
That is so ridiculous. I mean, imagine, within the world, people are trading in tons of cocaine and heroin. And what's he doing? He's selling seeds.
They said Emery is the biggest organized crime figure in all of Canada, and that I'm bigger than any other gang, including Hell's Angels and Triads. And of course, it's not even an organization. There's nobody but me.
I had to wonder, what really makes Marc Emery such a high priority for the U.S. government? A clue can be found in that press release. DEA head Karen Tandy stated that Emery's arrest is a blow to the marijuana legalization movement and legalization groups active in the United States. In fact, the statement does not discuss Emery's crime, but the nature of Emery's political activities.
I am the decision maker on his arrest, and I can assure you that there was absolutely no political motivation in that.
But if there was proof of political motivation, it would mean Emery's salvation. Under Canada's extradition treaty with the United States, it is illegal to extradite a person in order to punish them for political activities.
The question is, will there be sufficient evidence to convince a court of law that this is a politically inspired extradition request?
Hundreds of thousands of dollars of Emery's illicit profits are known to have been channeled to marijuana legalization groups active in the United States and Canada. Drug legalization lobbyists now have one less pot of money to rely on. This entire statement is a political manifesto. It's an admission that they're after the guy for his political activities and not for his seed selling.
That is clearly a good piece of cogent evidence, but just a piece.
Let me be perfectly clear on why Marc Emery was charged. Violating U.S. laws, targeted because he's a drug trafficker. You know, did he fund the legalization movement? There is evidence to show that, but that's not why he was targeted.
In every war, there has to be a price to pay for our enemies' malfeasance, and that means we have to make them pay.
It's all ideology. It's just the United States can't stand the movement that I front, and they're trying to do everything they can to take that one person down.
The one thing that I am certain about, beyond a shred of a doubt, that Marc was targeted because he's a political activist. On the political side, Canada and the United States are like best friends forever. So if we changed our law, it'd be very hard for them to support their laws. And they had to send a chill.
Marijuana does not impair...
So they had to step in and basically silence the most vocal activist in Canada, and the only activist, this is what's important, the only activist who was an entrepreneur, who could make money. There's no benefactors in Canada other than Marc. People relied upon Marc.
We must wage what I have called total war against public enemy number one in the United States, the problem of dangerous drugs.
In the pot-fueled hippie and anti-Vietnam War era of the 70s, Nixon declared war on drugs and set up the Drug Enforcement Administration. In an attempt to cut off the supply of drugs coming into America, the DEA went after producers around the world, extraditing those arrested to the United States to be tried and punished under American law. But by any measure, the strategy has not been successful. Marijuana is freely available in the U.S., and the rate of marijuana use among Americans is now roughly double what it is in Holland, where pot is decriminalized.
The United States has spent, some say, perhaps as much as $1 trillion US, trillion US dollars fighting against war on drugs.
In Ottawa, Eugene Oscapella, a lawyer and criminology professor, runs a small, independently funded drug policy watchdog group.
The United States now incarcerates 1/4 of all the human beings imprisoned on Earth. Punishment doesn't work. Just look south of the border. All you got to do is look south, and you're going to see a colossal failure of the prohibitionist model.
While the U.S. government continues to play hardball, and Emery's case is a clear example of that, many other countries are backing off, especially where pot is concerned. Here in Canada, public support for the decriminalization of marijuana has been polled as high as 69%.
This is the largest global marijuana march in the world today with 250 cities. We've got possibly 20,000 people here today.
To some extent, this trend has been stoked by Emery's relentless campaigns.
I think they targeted Marc because Marc was putting his money into changing the laws. Now, in Great Britain, it's not illegal to sell marijuana seeds, right? So you can't be extradited from the United Kingdom for selling marijuana seeds. They're safe. There's been seed sales out of the Netherlands for decades. There's continuing seed sales out of Canada, and there's seed sellers in the United States. They're just not engaged in political reform and therefore not putting bullseyes on their back as Marc did.
And I am never going to retreat. I want to overgrow the governments of the United States. I want to overgrow the government of Canada. There should be cannabis everywhere. Anyway, I'm from Ontario.
In part spooked by attitudes on this side of the border, the U.S. government continues to step up enforcement. And I was surprised to discover the DEA staffs and operates permanent offices in Canada.
We have a country office in Ottawa, and we have an office in Vancouver.
We know that the DEA operates in many other countries and runs roughshod over the sovereignty of many other countries. So is there any reason to think that they don't do the same in Canada?
We do not have police powers in Canada. We are there strictly in a liaison capacity.
Why do we even have the DEA in Canada? I mean, we've actually been trying to find that out, by the way.
Libby Davies, Member of Parliament for Vancouver East, has a special stake in the issue. She represents the city's drug-ravaged downtown east side, and coincidentally, Marc Emery's neighborhood.
I think this has everything to do with political pressure from the United States. We should be developing our own made-in-Canada policies. We should not be bowing to U.S. pressure. How are they influencing Canadian law enforcement and political policy? It should make us very, very nervous.
Our relationship with the RCMP is absolutely rock solid.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?
In May 2006, the annual DEA conference was held in Canada for the first time. Top DEA officials came in from Washington, along with high-ranking drug agents from over 80 countries, all in partnership with the DEA. And I joined the gathering. Our co-host was the RCMP commissioner at the time, Giuliano Zaccardelli.
This is the 24th year of IDEC. And you know, long before it became fashionable to buy into the philosophy of integrated policing, the DEA showed us the way.
I had a wonderful meeting yesterday with the leadership of the newly elected government in Canada, and I am so impressed. I want to thank Commissioner Zaccardelli for his partnership as we struggle together in our shared fight against drugs across the
Meanwhile, just down the road, there was another drug conference underway, where judges, lawyers, health workers, and police officers, many former drug warriors themselves, were telling the other side of the story.
We have approached the problem now for 90 years in the United States with only one strategy: spend more money, arrest more people. Our treasury is empty and our prisons are full. And we have a problem that is worse than it ever was.
And seeing all these police officers articulately and accurately frame the problem with the war on drugs is a really refreshing and wonderful thing.
Back at the Drug Enforcement Conference, I got the chance to ask why the United States ranked Emery the #1 drug trafficker in Canada.
Here in Canada, there is a public perception that perhaps marijuana isn't as serious as the other drugs. How do you justify putting Emery above the Hells Angels and the Asian gangs who traffic the hard drugs?
There is not one above another on the list. It is a composite list of the most wanted traffickers, manufacturers.
But there are no other
excuse me.
Canadians.
And for us in the United States, the risk to the youth from marijuana is substantial and has been...
Rather than address whether in fact Marc Emery is a legitimate threat compared to organized crime, the subject is steered back to the preferred talking point: marijuana as a health threat.
And I'm going to link back to the question from the gentleman here when he talks about the Hells Angels, Asian organized crime involved in hard drugs. There's no such things as soft or hard drugs. We're talking drugs here.
I could not agree more. There is no such thing as a soft drug or a hard drug, because what you have asked us about and termed as a soft drug is a drug that has addicted our children.
Even though scientific research keeps finding that marijuana is not physically addictive, Tandy continues to say it is, and the RCMP only nods.
There's a big rally over there.
It looked to me that the RCMP serves as the DEA's Trojan horse for importing American drug policy into Canada.
I've seen it worldwide, like I've indicated in Colombia.
But influence with law enforcement is not the only way the U.S. government has pressured Canada to toe the line. It wasn't long ago that Canada was on the brink of decriminalization.
We will soon introduce legislation to decriminalize possession of small amounts of marijuana. Don't start to smoke right away.
There's a feeling that the serious threat posed by marijuana, and the marijuana in particular coming from Canada, is being ignored, and I think joking about it makes that worse.
John Walters, the White House drug czar himself, was dispatched from Washington to personally deter us from legalizing pot.
Oh, lordy, lordy, the Antichrist himself is coming to Vancouver. Good God, John Walters, the White House drug czar from the Imperial United States, is arriving in Vancouver next Wednesday.
I would legalize this, and I would tax the living hell out of it.
Larry Campbell met with the drug czar when he dropped in to visit Vancouver.
The drug czar is an idiot. A complete and total idiot. I mean, he tried to explain to me that marijuana was the most dangerous drug and was the most addictive drug in the United States. Period. And I didn't understand how that was. He's made it clear that they would shut our borders down. I mean, there's no question. I mean, this is all about threats.
There was 5 tables of police officers from the Vancouver Police Department. They love John Walters.
We have regrettably had over 25 years of intense experience with the drug problem in the United States.
Well, there was also a table of 10 activists that I paid $500 for, and we heckled John Walters unmercifully all night long. As soon as he started telling lies about marijuana, we'd go liar, jailer, incarcerator, bullshit, and things like that, all night long. And he had lots of lies, so there was no end of us heckling him with words bullshit.
Of the 6 million people who could benefit from treatment and need it in the United States today, 60% are dependent on marijuana.
We humiliated him on TV and in a public forum, and he was furious.
I am a public official. What I say, what I'm responsible for, can be questioned and debated. I never heard of you.
He came, he saw, he got his ass kicked. Yes, indeed.
The showdown with the drug czar ushered in some heady days for the pot people. During the summer of 2003, decriminalization seemed imminent, and Emery smelled victory. He hit the road for what he called his Summer of Legalization tour, testing the rumor that legalization had already arrived. He had mixed results. But as summer faded, it seemed the drug czar had in fact won. Chrétien stopped talking about decriminalization, and the bill later died.
There's not a shadow of a doubt in my mind that all of this was coming from some pretty heavy-duty political pressure from the U.S.
For 2 more years, it was business as usual for Emery, selling his marijuana seeds, running his shop, and publishing his magazine. That is until July 29th, 2005, when without warning, he was busted.
Those engaged in the cultivation and trafficking of illegal drugs will eventually pay a steep price.
USA, go home! USA, go home! USA, go home! The House of Commons Committee says decriminalize marijuana. It would already be legal if it weren't for threats to America. We are not just Canadians here, we are people of the cannabis culture, and we cannot rest until our people are free everywhere on earth. An extradition hearing doesn't give me a trial. It's just a very brief hearing and off I go. I'm gone to an American judge, an American law, an American jury, an American punishment.
Though Emery is exaggerating a bit, he will have a chance to appeal an extradition order. This would likely only delay the inevitable. But there is another option: pleading guilty and having his lawyer cut a deal with American prosecutors for a more lenient sentence.
What do they really want? Maybe they want to muzzle you. Maybe that's something we could offer them.
And if I just get 5 years and I take a deal like that because I'm a coward and I want to only serve 5 years in jail or something like that, then people shouldn't care about me. Because for me, it's about the principle, and you're being dragged along to put pressure on me to make some kind of deal, which is what they always did. And then I had to suck shit and take some deal admitting guilt to something I don't believe is wrong.
We need martyrs. We need heroes. You know, black people have Malcolm X and Marcus Garvey and Martin Luther King, and they were all killed under tragic circumstances. So on one hand, personally, yes, it wasn't so good for them. They got killed. But for the movements that they represented, was incredible.
I would prefer, of course, to stay amongst my beloved friends and my cannabis culture, but whatever it takes, the ultimate goal is to legalize marijuana, set an example for the world, set an example for the United States, and stop being a satellite satrapy, a puppet state of the Bush administration. We have nothing to learn from America.
Emery doesn't look forward to a U.S. prison cell, of course. But after decades of fighting, I honestly think he would be disappointed if he didn't get the chance to martyr himself for the cause.
I think the average person in North America can't name one person in jail for pot.
No, they probably can't.
But if I were in jail,
that
everybody would know one person who shouldn't be there who's in jail for pot.
Well, so what? We know a lot of people that shouldn't be in jail.
I think that's an important representation.
Once he's over there, guilty plea, contested trial, whatever, I know how the Americans play ball. And they will be looking for the maximum they can get. And I believe they'll be looking for life.
I just think it's stupid for him to want to make a 115-minute of fame fuss by going to jail and saying, oh, I got a bad sentence, oh, I'm going to America, oh, it's not fair. Quiet. End of story.
It won't be 15 seconds.
End of story. Yes,
it won't.
Yes,
Once he's across that line, I don't know. I mean, they're not going to execute him, but life would be pretty brutal.
It's not going to accomplish anything by going to the States. Ian Donaldson tells me this.
The story is hot for one day. Within a week, it's cooler. Within a year, it's ancient news.
The only thing you can do is save yourself so you can keep working to change it so it won't happen again to anyone else.
Well, there's a good argument there.
They'll bury him so deep, they'll be sending him sunshine in a tin can.
It's selfish for you to want to go languish in jail and pout and hope that people get angry enough to change the government's decision, which they won't. It's impossible. Ian told me as much. You're not sure? You don't even know the strategy, Mark. You're being ridiculous.
It's nice to know you love me.
You're being ridiculous.
So that's my big plan. If I don't die in jail, I'm going to come back to triumph and they're going to elect me justice minister. And then I'll make pot legal and it'll be like a fairy tale ending. Either one's a fairy tale ending. If I die in jail or get murdered or something like that, that's good too.
I got the reefer blues. 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 I got no friends 'cause I got no budget. Shake, baby, shake. Shake, baby, shake. Shake, baby, shake. The Prince of Wales is wealth and fame. Great big ears and a big long name. But our Marc Emery, he takes the spot. The whole world knows he's the Prince of Pot. He's the Prince of Pot. He's the Prince of Pot. Now shy, he's not. He gives it all he's got. He's the Prince of Pot.